Some doors are not meant to be opened, not because what's behind them is dangerous, but because it knows when someone is curious. This story begins with a newly married couple who believed they were starting a normal life. A new city, a rented house, a quiet neighborhood, nothing unusual. The husband left every morning for his 9 to 5 job. The wife stayed home alone all day, and for the first few days, nothing happened until she found a door that didn't exist on the house papers. A door hidden so carefully, it felt intentional. A door locked with a heavy metal lock from the outside, and written across it, in old, fading letters, were 5 words that should have ended everything right there. Please do not open this. They opened it anyway. And after that moment, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied, because whatever was sealed behind that door didn't escape all at once. It entered slowly, into the walls, into the silence, into the wife. By the time the husband realized something was wrong, his wife was already gone, and the basement door was open. Stay with me till the end, because this is not just a story about a haunted house. It's about what happens when a warning is ignored, and something ancient finally gets permission to wake up. When people talk about fresh starts, they usually imagine hope, new streets, new faces, a clean beginning. For this couple, the fresh start came faster than expected. They had only been married a few months when the husband got a job offer in a different city. A stable 9 to 5 position, good pay, the kind of job that makes you believe life is finally settling down. They packed their things, said goodbye to the old place, and drove toward what they thought would be their future. The house they rented was convenient. Too convenient. It was bigger than they needed, quieter than they expected, and much cheaper than anything else in the area. The landlord didn't explain much. He didn't ask many questions either. He just handed over the keys, avoided eye contact, and said one strange thing before leaving. Don't change anything in the house. At the time, it sounded harmless, like an old man being overly protective of his property. The neighborhood was silent, not peaceful, just still. No children playing outside, no dogs barking. Even the wind felt careful as it moved through the trees. Inside, the house smelled old, but clean, like a place that had been empty for a long time, yet never forgotten. The wife walked from room to room, imagining furniture, curtains, a future. The husband checked his phone, already thinking about his first day at work. Nothing felt dangerous. Nothing felt threatening, but there was a strange feeling they both ignored. It felt like the house was listening, not watching, not waiting, listening. And somewhere beneath their feet, far below the quiet floors, something shifted, as if it had just realized it wasn't alone anymore. The husband's routine began the very next morning. Every day, he left the house at the same time. Buttoned shirt, quick breakfast, a short goodbye kiss at the door. The wife would stand there and watch him walk away, his footsteps fading into the quiet street. And then, the silence would return. At first, she enjoyed it. The house felt large, too large for just one person, but not uncomfortable. She cleaned. She unpacked boxes. She explored rooms they hadn't really looked at before. But as the days passed, the silence began to change. It wasn't the kind of silence that feels calm. It was heavy, pressed down on her ears, like the house was holding its breath. Sometimes she would hear a sound, a soft thud, or the faint scrape of something moving, only for it to stop the moment she focused on it. She told herself it was normal. Old houses make noise. Wood settles. Pipes complain. Still, certain rooms felt colder than others. No matter how warm the day was outside, the smell came next. Not strong, just a faint, damp odor, like wet soil mixed with old metal. It seemed to come from nowhere, and then disappear just as quickly. At night, when the husband came home tired from work, she mentioned these things casually. The sounds, the smell, the cold spots. He laughed softly and blamed stress. You're just not used to being alone all day, he said. She wanted to believe him. But one afternoon, while folding clothes in the hallway, she felt something else. A presence. Not a shape, not a shadow, just the feeling that she was no longer alone. She stood completely still, listening. Nothing. But the moment she moved again, she felt it move too. Whatever it was, it stayed just out of reach, just out of sight, and deep within the house, hidden where no sunlight could ever reach. Something seemed to respond to her fear, like it had finally been noticed. She found the door by accident. It was late afternoon, and the house was unusually quiet. No distant traffic, no birds, not even the familiar creaking of the floors. She was clearing out a small storage area near the back of the house, moving old boxes left behind by previous tenants. One of the boxes was heavier than it looked. When she dragged it aside, she froze. Behind it was a door, not a normal door, shorter, narrower, made of thick, dark metal. It didn't match the rest of the house. There was no handle, only a large, rusted lock hanging from the center, heavy enough to feel deliberate. Her eyes were drawn to the writing scratched into the surface. The letters were uneven, as if carved in a hurry or in fear. "Please do not open this." She stood there longer than she realized, staring at those words. The air around the door felt wrong, colder than the hallway, denser, like breathing became harder the closer she stood. She placed her hand near the door, not touching it, and felt a faint vibration, so subtle she almost missed it, like something on the other side was moving. She stepped back, her heart pounding. There was no mention of a basement in the rental agreement, no stairs anywhere else in the house. That door wasn't just hidden, it was meant to be forgotten. When the husband came home that evening, she showed it to him. He studied the door, frowned at the warning, and tried to laugh it off. "Probably an old storage room," he said, "or a weird joke from a previous tenant." But even he didn't touch the lock. For the rest of the night, neither of them spoke about it. And when they went to bed, the wife dreamed of a voice rising from below the house. Soft, patient, repeating her name. The next morning, the husband left for work as usual, but something felt different. The wife stood in the doorway longer than she normally did, watching him walk away. Not because she was afraid of being alone, but because the house already felt occupied. As soon as the door closed behind him, the silence returned, thicker than before. She tried to distract herself. Music, cleaning, phone calls. Nothing worked. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the door. She told herself she wouldn't go near it. That curiosity was exactly what the warning was meant to stop. But as the afternoon dragged on, she began to hear something new. A sound coming from beneath the house. Not loud, not constant, a soft, irregular tapping. She followed it slowly, her steps careful, until she stood in the hallway where the hidden door waited. The tapping stopped. The lock was still there, still closed. But now, the writing looked different. The words hadn't changed, but the scratches appeared deeper, darker, as if they had been traced again, recently. That night, she didn't mention the tapping to her husband. She didn't know how to explain it without sounding afraid. Instead, she asked him something else. Did the landlord ever say what was under the house? He shook his head. There's nothing under the house. But even as he said it, his eyes drifted toward the hallway. That night, the dreams came back. She dreamed she was standing in the hallway, staring at the door. Only now, the lock was gone, and the door was breathing, slow, deep, like something alive was pressing against it from the other side. She woke up gasping for air. From somewhere in the house, there was the faint sound of metal moving, not breaking, not falling, unlocking. The lock was still intact the next morning, heavy, cold, unmoved. The husband stood in front of the door longer than he meant to. He didn't like how it made him feel. It wasn't fear. It was pressure, like the house was daring him to prove he was in control. He told himself the same thing again and again. It's just a door, just a basement. Old houses hide strange things. He brought tools from the garage, not because he planned to use them. At least, that's what he told himself, but because he wanted answers. The wife watched silently. She wanted to tell him to stop. The words formed in her throat, but curiosity had already replaced fear. The first strike against the lock echoed through the house. Too loud, too final. The second strike snapped the metal. The lock fell to the floor with a sound that seemed to travel deeper than it should have. The door didn't open right away. It waited. When he pulled it open, darkness greeted them. Not the normal kind of darkness. This one felt thick, layered. A wave of cold air rushed out, carrying a smell that made the wife step back. Wet earth, rust, something faintly sweet and rotten. They couldn't see the bottom. The stairs descended farther than they should have, disappearing into blackness. The basement felt larger than the house above it. That thought arrived uninvited and refused to leave. They stood there in silence. No sound came from below, no movement. That was the worst part, because whatever had been sealed there wasn't angry. It wasn't rushing to escape. It was waiting, and the moment the door opened, it noticed them. Nothing happened right away. That's what confused the husband the most. Days passed after the basement door was opened, and the house remained quiet. Too quiet. The wife didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't say anything alarming. She just became distant. She would stop mid-sentence, staring at nothing. Sometimes she smiled for no reason. A small, private smile, like she was listening to someone else speak. The husband noticed she started standing near the basement door without realizing it. He would find her in the hallway, her hand resting against the wall beside it. When he asked what she was doing, she looked genuinely confused. "I didn't know I was here," she said. At night, the house made new sounds. Not bangs or footsteps. Breathing, slow, rhythmic. The husband woke up once, convinced someone was standing beside the bed. But there was nothing there. Only the faint sound of air moving through the house, as if the walls themselves had lungs. The smell returned, stronger now, damp soil and metal, but also something else, something warm. One evening, He came home early and found the basement door open. The wife was sitting on the floor in front of it, humming softly. She stopped when she noticed him. Her eyes looked tired, older. "It doesn't like being alone," she said. He didn't ask who she meant. That night, he locked the basement door again. But the lock didn't stop the sounds, and it didn't stop the dreams. Because whatever had been sealed below wasn't trapped anymore. It was spreading through the house, through the silence, and slowly, through her. He returned from work one evening, exhausted. The house greeted him with the same quiet that had become unbearable over the past days. But tonight, it felt different, too quiet, as if the house itself were holding its breath, waiting for him to notice. "Hey," he called, stepping inside. "Are you home?" No reply. He walked through every room, kitchen, living room, bedroom. No sign of her. The basement door was slightly ajar. The lock had not been broken again, yet the door stood open as if it had moved on its own. A chill ran down his spine. He stepped closer. He could feel it, the cold, the air heavier at the threshold. Her shoes were gone. Her phone, nothing. Panic rose, sharp and sudden. "Where are you?" he shouted, voice cracking. But the only answer was silence. He ran to the neighbors, door after door, asking questions. No one had seen her, but they looked at him differently, eyes wide, whispering behind hands. Fear, recognition, guilt. Finally, an elderly neighbor spoke. "She found the door," she said. "The one we warned about." The words fell like stones. The husband froze. "What do you mean?" he demanded. "Some doors," she whispered, "are not meant to be opened. Not by the living, not by anyone." The basement door loomed behind him, open, silent, waiting. And in that silence, he realized something he had never understood before. It wasn't just a door. It was a trap, and his wife had stepped inside. He couldn't stop thinking about the basement. Every step back to the house made his stomach twist. Every shadow seemed heavier. Every creak of the floor felt like a warning. He returned to the neighbors, determined to find answers. The first few refused to talk. Their eyes darted to the house and away again, like it held a secret they feared to speak aloud. But eventually, an elderly couple invited him inside. They spoke in hushed tones, every word deliberate. "This house," the woman began, "was never just a home. A priest lived here once. Years ago, he locked something away in the basement, something he could not destroy, something dangerous." The husband felt a chill. What was it?" he asked. But they shook their heads. "No one knows exactly. We just know he tried to contain it. He sealed it with rituals, with prayers, with everything he had. But the moment anyone opens that basement, it remembers." The husband's heart raced. "Remembers?" he asked. "Yes," the old man said. "It can sense curiosity, fear, doubt. It feeds on it, and sometimes it takes." "Taken," the husband whispered. "People go missing," the neighbor admitted, "or come back, changed. You'll know the difference when you see it." Every word sank into him like a stone in water, slow, unforgiving. When he returned to the house, the basement door felt alive. The air around it vibrated slightly, like the hushed whispers of someone waiting. He knew now the danger was real, and the warnings from the neighbors weren't just old stories. They were lifelines he had ignored too long. He had to act fast, but he didn't yet know how. Desperation pushed him further than fear ever could. He remembered the stories of the priest who had once lived in the house, the man who had locked something away in the basement. If anyone could help, it was him. He found the priest living on the outskirts of town, a small, crumbling house, surrounded by overgrown weeds and silence. The priest looked older than the years should have allowed, eyes hollow, hands trembling. When the husband explained the basement, the door, and his wife's disappearance, the priest's face grew pale. "You opened it," he said quietly. "You had no right." I didn't know," the husband stammered. "She's gone," he shouted. "Please, you have to save her." The priest shook his head. "The house is not just a house," he whispered. "The basement is not just a room. It is a boundary. What lives there cannot be reasoned with. It waits. It watches. It remembers every moment it was disturbed." The husband's hands clenched. "What do you mean? Where is she?" The priest closed his eyes. "She is not entirely gone, but she is not fully here. If we do not act quickly, she may never be the same. We must descend. We must seal it again. But it will fight. It will try to take what is left." Fear clawed at him, but he didn't hesitate. He followed the priest back to the house. The basement door loomed before them, open, patient, alive. The priest held a small bundle of ancient herbs and whispered prayers under his breath. The husband felt the air thicken. The smell of damp earth and metal was stronger now. The house seemed to hum around them. This was no ordinary danger. This was a force older than the walls themselves, and it had already chosen the wife. The basement door felt heavier than ever as they approached. The air around it was thick, almost alive, pressing against their skin. Every step forward made the house groan. Every creak echoed as if the walls themselves were whispering. The priest muttered prayers under his breath. The husband's hands shook, gripping the priest's arm. He wanted to turn back. He wanted to run, but he couldn't leave her. The stairs were narrower than he remembered. Dampness clung to the walls. The smell of earth and metal intensified, and beneath it, something sweeter, more metallic, almost intoxicating. As they descended, the darkness seemed to swallow light. Shadows stretched and twisted in impossible ways. The husband caught glimpses of shapes just beyond vision, figures that vanished when he looked directly at them. Then he heard it, a voice, soft, whispering, calling her name, not once, over and over. "She is here," the priest whispered. "The boundary is thin. It feeds on the living. Do not let it take her completely." The husband reached the bottom and froze. The basement was not like he remembered. Walls shifted. Symbols appeared in the darkness, etched in deep grooves. They seemed alive, glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. And there she was, sitting in the far corner, her eyes distant, unfocused, her hands resting on her knees. She hummed a tune he didn't recognize. "Please," he called softly. "I'm here. Come back to me." Her head turned slowly, not fully recognizing him, not fully present, but enough to know she was still alive. The priest stepped forward. He sprinkled herbs in a wide circle and began chanting, his voice low and commanding. The air around them shook. The shadows seemed to stretch, recoiling from the words. The basement seemed endless, yet compressed all at once. Shapes moved in the darkness. The whispers rose to a crescendo, mimicking the wife's voice. The husband's heart threatened to burst from his chest. Minutes felt like hours. Time itself seemed warped. Finally, the wife shuddered. Her eyes focused. Recognition returned. She stumbled forward, and the priest caught her. The shadows retreated slightly. The breathing ceased. The basement fell silent, almost respectfully. But even as relief washed over him, the husband knew this wasn't over. The door, the house, they had not forgotten. They had only waited. The basement door closed with a final, echoing clang. The priest muttered the last words of the ritual, locking away whatever had been disturbed. The heavy metal lock, once broken, was replaced with an even stronger one, reinforced with symbols only he understood. The wife was safe, alive, breathing, human again. But something had changed. Her smile was quieter now. Her eyes carried a shadow no one could erase. Even in relief, the husband could feel it. The basement hadn't entirely let go. The priest turned to him. "You have saved her body," he said, voice low, trembling. "But the house will not forget. The curiosity brought it out, and it remembers every choice you made." The husband nodded, swallowing fear. He held his wife close, feeling her trembling. Her grip was tight, clinging, as if she had brought back something with her, something small, lingering, unseen. He asked the priest if they could ever live here again. The priest shook his head slowly. "No, the boundary has been disturbed too many times. Even a new family will feel it. Even if they don't see the door, the presence remains." The couple spent the night in silence. The house that once felt merely quiet now felt heavy with memory. Every shadow, every draft, every faint whisper of the past. By morning, they had made a decision. They could not stay. They could not risk it again. They packed their things, left the house behind, locking the reinforced door one last time. And as they drove away, the husband looked back at the dark silhouette of the home. The house seemed to watch them leave, silent, patient, waiting. The couple moved to a new house. A fresh start. At first, everything seemed normal. No strange smells, no cold spots, no whispering in the walls. The wife, after the terrifying experiences in the old house, slowly began to recover from the lingering trauma of the basement incident. Her smiles returned. Her laughter returned. The nightmares faded. The husband returned to his 9 to 5 routine, and life began to feel simple again. Day by day, the weight of the old house seemed to lift. For the first time in weeks, they felt safe, truly safe. And yet, some memories could not be erased. Sometimes, when the wind blew just right, the wife would pause, recalling the cold corridors, the heavy door, the whispers. They were fleeting memories, not fear, just reminders of the life they had survived. Despite the shadows of the past, they settled into their new home. They laughed, cooked together, and built a life without the terror that had once consumed them. Finally, for the first time in months, they felt whole again, together, safe, alive. And though the old house would always remain in their memories, they had learned that survival could bring peace. Happily, at last, they lived their life anew.